whole thing. Anyway, all right. So that's it for the NFL. So moving on to college football. I mean, it was I want to say it was an interesting day yesterday. Not a lot of not some real incredible games.
Yeah.
It was just kind of interesting because the first college football playoff rankings, the official college football playoff rankings, are coming out on Tuesday. So,
okay.
Yeah. So we'll get to see who thinks what of whom. So basically, I just wrote down some of my takeaways. I mean, look, I've been saying Michigan to me is questionable this whole time, but I think after, I thought that Penn State game, Penn State played Ohio State. I thought that would be a little bit of a measuring stick because we could see what Michigan did against them, and now we get to see what Ohio State did against them. And honestly, I think Ohio State is questionable too. I mean, I like Ohio State better than Michigan, but
they haven't really played anybody, so it's tough to say.
Right, Michigan and Ohio State have not played anybody out of conference. The Big Ten is not good this year. I don't care what anybody says; it's not good. So, they get this challenge against, and Penn State basically did the same thing to both teams. They hung in there until the third and even into the fourth quarter against Ohio State, and then they put them, Ohio State and Michigan put them away. But if you're struggling with average Big Ten teams, I think it's a problem. So, look, I said this already. I mean, especially when it comes to Michigan, like Michigan can't continue to run the ball 50 times and think they're going to survive. This isn't going to work. You've got to be able to throw the ball down the field to be able to score. You got to be able to do that quickly. Like they were in this game with Michigan State for almost 3 quarters where they're just hanging around with them, and it's just Michigan State's not good. It's like you've got to put these teams away because when you get to the playoff, you're not going to get the first half to mess around. Like if you do that against one of these teams in the playoff, the game's over. So I kind of think my loose prediction, I'll say. I kind of think what's going to happen is, so Michigan and Ohio State are going to play. The game's going to be competitive, right? I think it'll be competitive until the second half. Ohio State will pull away, and everybody will go, oh, man, what a great game. Those teams are both good. And then whoever gets into the playoff is going to get absolutely destroyed because they're just, it's like, all right, Ohio State can score. Like, congratulations on beating Iowa and Indiana. It's like you just this isn't good enough competition for you, and the only competition they're going to get is from each other. So, and I think they're pretty close to the same level. So I just feel like now that's not to bang on Ohio State. I think Ohio State's offense is capable of hanging in there with any team in America. So that's why I'm gonna do my top 12, and that's why I have them ranked higher. I'll tell you what, man. The Big 12 is great every week.
The Big 12 was really fun, but TCU is going to lose. Okay, I think last week they came back from 18 down, and I think I heard that they were down 18 in another game this year before that, or maybe the week before. And then they're playing West Virginia, and it's a fun game. It's and they were kind of going back and forth a little bit, and TCU ended up winning, but I just think TCU is going to end up losing. I just don't. If they're undefeated, then they got a shot to get in there. But if they lose a game, I kind of feel like they're going to get shut out. I don't think they're going to put them.
And listen, the Big 12 is the most competitive conference from top to bottom.
It is.
Anybody can pretty much beat anybody. It's so every week I love watching these games because you never know. You tune in the before halftime and both teams have 24 points. It's incredible. So I think TCU is the only team that has a shot. And they've got to keep winning, and who knows if they can keep doing this, but they got 4 more games to try it. I couldn't believe Kansas State just absolutely destroyed Oklahoma State.
It
was incredible. I kept watching the game going, oh, they'll come back. I'm watching the Big 12. I'm like, they'll come back. It'll be a run. They'll make a run. They'll come back. Never happened.
Nope.
24-0, 31-0, 38-0. Every time I flip back to it, I'm like, what is happening? Like, I can't believe Kansas State with their backup quarterback just went in there and just absolutely wow. So USC again for the talk about the Pac-12. USC again just lets teams hang around. Arizona had 37 points on them. I don't know what is going on. I don't know about the Pac-12, but we're going to find out November 19th. USC plays UCLA and Oregon plays Utah. And basically the winners of those two games will basically play in the Pac-12 championship game.
So do you think a one-loss Pac-12 team could get in?
Not if you've got Clemson undefeated. Because I think you're going to have a real shot at getting a second SEC team in. So we'll see. But it kind of depends on what happens. Really depends on what happens with the SEC, because you assume the SEC champion is going to be one spot. The Big Ten champion will be another spot. If Clemson's undefeated, they'll get a third spot. And then it's just that fourth spot. Are they going to be put ahead of an SEC team? It kind of depends on who that team is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a kind of exposed that USC's defense is not legit.
Yeah.
Actually, none of those teams' defenses are really legit. So we'll see what happens. I think, Colin Cowherd is like, USC is going to win all the rest of their games. Well, yeah, they're going to beat the other crappy Pac-12 teams. It's just, are they going to beat UCLA? I don't know. That's a team that can go toe to toe with them offensively. So I don't know what to think. USC has struggled in some games. I know they can score, but I don't think they can stop anybody.
Yeah.
So I think, I've been saying, we really need a 12-team playoff, especially this year. But I think this is an example, like what I talked about with Ohio State and Michigan. This is a perfect example of why we need it. Ohio State and Michigan need to prove themselves before they're in the semifinals. You know what I mean? We can't be having this team play nobody, come from a bad conference. They beat a team we think is good, right? And then they just get destroyed by whatever SEC team they play. Because this happened before. Ohio State made the championship game back with the BCS, right? The year with Ted Ginn and that team. They played the Urban Meyer Gators, right? They beat, it was 2006. They beat Ohio State beat Michigan by a field goal. Everybody's like, oh my God, it was a great game. Both these teams are great. They both should be in the playoff, blah, 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 blah. And then Ohio State got absolutely destroyed because they played nobody except Big Ten teams. They beat Michigan. Everybody thinks they're great. And then they just get wiped out because they were never legit anyway. So with the playoff format, at least, even if Ohio State or Michigan was in the top four to start out with, they got to win 3 games. Like, they're not going to make it through a quarterfinal game if they play like this. So, yeah, it's one of the things that, we need these. And this is the best thing about the SEC is those teams have to prove themselves every single week. Like, we can complain about, the SEC gets too much credit. Well, they're the best conference, so I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry that they're better than you. So, before I give my top 12, just want to talk about next week. So, huge matchups next week, big time. Georgia playing Tennessee.
We got Georgia and Tennessee, right? Yeah.
Right, and then Alabama, LSU at night. So that should go a long way towards deciding. That Georgia-Tennessee game will basically decide who's what. It'll decide half of the SEC championship game. So it's a huge deal. Just as a early look at it, I don't think Georgia's going to let Tennessee's receivers run wide open like they did in the Kentucky game. I don't think that's quite going to happen the same way, but Georgia can score. Georgia has proven this season their offense is not like it was last year. This team can actually go out there and put up some points. So that should be a real interesting game. And, Alabama better be ready up front. That's all I can say, because if they're not ready, if their offensive line's not ready to go, LSU will embarrass them. Their defensive line is ridiculous. They got NFL guys all over it. So that's how I look at it. Like, if LSU physically hangs in there, then, Bryce Young's going to be running for his life. So that could be a serious issue. I don't know if LSU's offense will play well. Like, if they do, if LSU plays well, they could beat anybody in the country. As you'll see with my rankings, I'm pretty high on LSU, even though I know most people, don't think they're legit. But anyway, all right. So let's give you my top 12. So I got Tennessee number 1. Tennessee's got the best win. They look the best. They blew out LSU. They blew out Kentucky. They beat Alabama. Yes, they played them at home, but they beat them.
Okay.
These other teams weren't able to get over the hump and beat them, so I put them number 1 because I just think they've been the most impressive team. I put Georgia 2. They've been pretty consistent the whole season. They blew out Oregon to start the year. As we're seeing, that's a pretty good win.
Yeah.
They struggled against Missouri, but they beat Florida yesterday. They had the game. They pretty much had control of the game. They kind of let Florida back in a little bit, but they still beat them by 20. I put Ohio State 3. Could I put Alabama ahead of them? I could, but Ohio State's undefeated, and I feel like Ohio State's offense is capable of hanging in there with anybody in the country. So I put them 3. Yeah, their schedule's not good. It's not great, but, I put Alabama 4th. I know everybody's going to have Michigan or Clemson 4th, but I'm sorry, man. I don't buy Michigan. I don't buy Clemson. I think Alabama would smoke them. And I realize, Alabama lost the game, but they lost the game by 3 on a last-second field goal on the road. The kicker makes a field goal, maybe they win. So, I think they've got a pretty good loss, and I don't think anything. I put Michigan ahead of Clemson 5th. I think Michigan physically, I think they're a little better than Clemson is. Their quarterbacks are both questionable, but I just think the Michigan quarterback can make plays with his legs better than the Clemson quarterback can. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking Michigan there, but I don't feel good about either one of those. So Michigan 5th, Clemson 6th. Then I put Oregon 7th. I think what Oregon did, just blowing out UCLA the way they did, is pretty fantastic, and I feel like they have a great chance to win out. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12. I think they're going to beat Utah, and I think if they play USC, they would beat them. So I think, I put them. So I put them 7th. I put TCU 8th, right behind them. I still have to give TCU credit for being undefeated. And plus, with these Pac-12 teams, those games would all be shootouts anyway. So Who can tell between Oregon, TCU, and, all the Pac-12 and Big 12 teams. So, so Oregon 7th, TCU 8th. Then I put USC 9th. I went back and forth between USC 9th and Ole Miss. I kind of went back and forth because I feel like both those teams, they can score. But I'm not sure how great they are at stopping anybody. And I just feel like USC's got a better quarterback, so I put them ahead of Ole Miss. So Ole Miss 10th. I put UCLA 11th. I feel like UCLA, good team, not as good as those other Pac-12 teams, and I feel like Ole Miss and USC are going to beat them especially on a neutral field. And then I put LSU 12th. Look, my choices for 12th are like Utah, Penn State, Wake Forest.
I'd go with LSU.
I just think LSU
put it all together, but they're really
LSU's talent. I'm sorry,
they just
man.
beat Ole Miss, didn't they?
They just beat Ole Miss. If their special teams don't screw them over in that Florida State game, they have one loss and they're probably 6th. So LSU's legit. They're playing as well as anybody right now. So I put them in there. You can get mad at me for having four SEC teams in there if you want, but
they're all really good. I don't.
That's how I see it. I think, and now what is the committee going to do? I don't know. It's hard not to put Tennessee number 1, so we'll see.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they'll put Ohio State number 1, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they probably. I agree with you. I think Ohio State or Georgia will probably be number 1. But and that being said, it doesn't really matter wherever they put Tennessee and Georgia. Like after one team wins next weekend, the other team will be ahead of them. So I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. But anyway, so that's my top 12. I'm hoping the next few weeks should be really awesome. I think the last couple of weeks, we haven't had as many good games, but I think we're gonna be fortunate now to get some really good stuff going on. So
yeah,
awesome college football season.
All right. Yeah, I think I basically say those rankings are pretty good. I haven't watched as much college football yet.
Yeah, I wanted to